Welcome to the deep dive. We take complex ideas and, well, we try to break them down, make them clear. Today, we're looking at something that sounds, honestly, straight out of sci-fi, modern alchemy. I mean, turning lead into gold, but with actual modern science behind it, or at least the claim of it. We're going to unpack this really audacious claim from a company in San Francisco, Marathon Fusion. They're suggesting they can do nuclear fusion for power, sure, but also make gold, lots of it, as a byproduct. So our mission today is to look into that, their approach, the science, the potential, and definitely the challenges, big challenges, I imagine. And we're basing this on an article called Fusion Power, Turning Lead into Gold. Okay, so let's start with the basics. Marathon Fusion, they're working with deuterium tritium fusion, right? DT fusion. And they're using something like a tokamak, that sort of donut-shaped reactor design.
That's right, yeah. DT fusion in a tokamak-like setup is one of the main approaches being researched globally. But DT fusion has these inherent problems that everyone's trying to solve, two really big ones.
Okay, what are they?
Well, first, you get these incredibly fast neutrons shooting out from the reaction. They're super high energy. They damage materials. They're hard to shield. And generally just, a major headache for reactor design.
Right. Problem number one, fast, difficult neutrons. And number two?
Number two is the fuel itself. Tritium. It's an isotope of hydrogen, and it's essential for the DT reaction, but it's incredibly rare and expensive, like really expensive.
How expensive are we talking?
Around $30,000 per gram.
Wow, $30,000 for a single gram.
Yeah. And you can't just, mine it. It's mostly produced in tiny amounts as a byproduct in certain kinds of fission reactors, the old-style nuclear plants. So getting enough tritium is a huge bottleneck for fusion power right now.
Okay, so you've got these dangerous fast neutrons nobody wants, and you need the super rare, super expensive fuel, tritium. But Marathon Fusion looks at these two big problems and sees an opportunity, a way to make money from them.
Exactly. That's the core idea. They want to turn these liabilities into assets. This is where their, what's called alchemy comes in.
How? How do they actually propose doing that?
Well, they've designed this system of 3 layers, like concentric shells around the fusion core. Each layer does something very specific.
Okay, 3 layers. What's in the first one?
The closest one. The inner layer, right next to the fusion reaction, is a mix of mercury and lithium, liquid metal. Those problematic fast neutrons we talk about, they fly out and hit the mercury atoms in this layer. And when a fast neutron hits a mercury atom just right, it triggers something called an N-to-N reaction.
An N-to-N reaction.
Yeah. Basically, 1 neutron goes in and 2 neutrons come out.
Oh.
Plus, and this is the key part, that interaction changes the original stable mercury atom into an unstable isotope of mercury.
Unstable meaning? Radioactive.
Briefly, yes. It's unstable, so it naturally decays. And guess what it decays into?
Let me guess.
Gold. Stable isotopes of gold,
Okay.
exactly. The fast neutron hits mercury, turns it unstable, and it decays into gold.
Huh. Okay, that's the gold part. What about the tritium fuel problem, and what happens to those 2 neutrons that came out?
Right, so those neutrons, along with others from the fusion reaction, keep going outwards into the second layer. This middle layer is made of a molten salt. Specifically, lithium, beryllium, and fluoride mixed together.
Molten salt. Okay.
Its main job is to slow the neutrons down. But as it slows them down, the neutrons hit the lithium atoms in the salt. And when a slower neutron hits lithium, it creates helium and, crucially, more tritium.
Ah, so it breeds its own fuel.
Precisely. It
Great.
replenishes the tritium needed for the fusion reaction. It's a breeding blanket, as they call it.
Okay, mercury and lithium for gold, then molten salt for tritium breeding. What's the third, outermost layer?
The outer layer is essentially shielding, a special kind of steel designed to stop any remaining radiation from getting out. Protects the environment, protects the workers, standard safety, but, essential.
It sounds incredibly interconnected, like a finely tuned machine.
It has to be. They need to get the amounts just right in each layer. Enough neutrons have to hit the mercury to make gold, but enough also need to get through to the second layer and hit the lithium to make enough tritium to keep the reactor running.
So they're balancing making fuel and making gold using the same initial neutron spray from the fusion.
That's the clever balancing act they're proposing, yeah. Based on their simulations, at least.
Simulations, right. Let's talk about those, the numbers they're projecting. They sound pretty impressive. They're talking about a 1.5 gigawatt plant, which is, a decent size comparable to large conventional power plants.
Yes, it's a proper utility scale projection.
And the gold output,
Their simulations suggest about 3,000 kilograms of gold per year.
3,000 kilos, 3 metric tons of gold every year.
That's the number from the models, yes.
And what's that worth? roughly?
Well, at today's gold prices, give or take, it works out to be roughly the same value as the electricity the plant would generate over that year.
So you're basically doubling the plant's revenue.
Potentially, yes. If this works, it could fundamentally change the economics of fusion power.
You can see why that would get investors excited. I mean, it makes fusion look potentially far more profitable much faster.
Absolutely. It could, in theory, drastically cut the time needed for fusion to become commercially competitive. It tackles both the fuel supply issue and the economic viability issue in one go, or so the theory goes.
Okay, it sounds amazing, revolutionary even. But there has to be a catch, right? What are the big hurdles, the potential deal breakers?
There are definitely catches. Two main ones stand out right now.
Let's hear them.
First, the gold itself. Remember how the mercury becomes unstable and then decays?
Yeah, into gold.
Well, not all of it becomes stable gold instantly. The process creates a mix of gold isotopes, and a small fraction of those are radioactive isotopes of gold.
Radioactive gold, so you can't just, like, sell it on the open market.
Not immediately, no. These radioactive gold isotopes need time to decay to safe levels. The estimate is about 14 years. So you'd have to produce this gold and then store it securely for, almost a decade and a half before it's safe enough to handle and sell normally.
14 years of storage. That adds complexity. And cost, presumably.
Definitely. Storage, security, tracking.
Yeah.
It's a significant logistical challenge.
Yeah.
Not insurmountable, maybe, but a challenge.
Okay, radioactive gold needing long-term storage. What's the second main catch?
The second one is perhaps even bigger. All of this. The gold production rates, the tritium breeding efficiency, the whole layered system working perfectly. It's all based on computer simulations. Very sophisticated ones, I'm sure, but simulations nonetheless.
So it hasn't actually been built or tested in the real world?
Not yet, no. And the results haven't been published in peer-reviewed scientific journals either, as far as the article indicates.
Oh, so we don't have independent verification that the simulations are accurate or that this would actually work in practice.
Exactly. It's a fascinating concept backed by internal modeling, but it hasn't cleared the hurdles of independent scientific scrutiny or experimental proof. That's a huge step still to be taken.
Right. That puts the excitement into perspective a bit. It's still very much in the conceptual, maybe computational stage. But let's explore the concept a bit more. Why fusion? Why couldn't you do this, say, with a standard nuclear fission reactor? They make neutrons too.
Yeah, good question. It boils down to the neutron energy. That specific end-to-end reaction in mercury, the one that starts the gold-making process, it needs really high-energy, fast neutrons to work efficiently. Fission reactors produce neutrons, yes, but they're generally much slower, lower energy. They just don't have the oomph needed to kickstart that specific mercury-to-gold pathway effectively.
So you need the really fast neutrons that are unique to the DT fusion process.
That seems to be the requirement for this particular mechanism, yes.
And what about just selling the extra tritium it breeds? If it makes more than it needs, couldn't that be the valuable byproduct?
Well, theoretically, yes, but the market for tritium is tiny. Like really tiny. A single fusion plant operating like this could probably flood the entire current global market almost instantly.
Yeah.
The price would collapse. It's not a sustainable large-scale revenue stream like potentially gold could be.
Gotcha. Market's too small. Now, I remember hearing something about CERN, the particle physics lab in Europe, making gold recently. Is that related at all? Is it the same kind of thing?
Yes. That was a different process entirely. CERN slammed lead ions together at incredible speeds, and yes, they did detect that some gold atoms were produced in the collisions.
So they did make gold.
They did, but the amount was minuscule. We're talking picograms.
Picograms, how small is that?
A picogram is a trillionth of a gram. So utterly insignificant from a commercial standpoint. It was a fascinating physics experiment proving a nuclear reaction pathway, but it's absolutely not comparable to the industrial scale, the thousands of kilograms that marathon fusion is talking about, worlds apart.
Okay, so CERN's gold was a scientific curiosity. Marathons is a potential industrial process. Huge difference. So wrapping this up, we have this idea from marathon fusion. Using the problems of DT fusion, the fast neutrons, and the need for tritium to actually create immense value, solving the tritium supply by breeding it internally, and using the spare neutrons, essentially, to transmute mercury into gold. Modern alchemy, really, but with, computer models instead of wizards.
Pretty much, yeah. The author of the source article even coined the term for it, solid-state capitalism, where the byproducts of energy become valuable commodities themselves.
Solid-state capitalism. It's a catchy phrase.
It is. Of course, it's highly speculative at this point. We absolutely have to remember the radioactive gold issue and the fact that it's all simulation-based right now. Those are major ifs.
Absolutely. Huge ifs.
But imagine for a moment they can solve the radioactive gold storage or find a way to mitigate it.
Mm.
Imagine the simulations do prove accurate in the real world. What would that actually mean? If you have fusion power plants that are not only clean and sustainable energy sources, but also effectively gold factories, how does that change global energy, resource markets, our whole idea of wealth creation?
It really makes you think, doesn't it? A future where sustainable energy doesn't just power the world, but might also, quite literally, produce treasure. That's definitely something to mull over.